Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Daily Dose podcast. I have another special guest today. Joining me is Cobey Fehr. Cobey, how's it going today, man?
Good, man. Real good. Doing good.
So, obviously, for people who don't know you, you're upcoming on the MMA scene. You train at Xtreme Couture. You kind of have a big viral moment right now. I kind of wanted to get right into it, where you're on this show. You're letting everybody know if it was a real fight, it'd be a different situation. I kind of saw you already were supposed to be on there, maybe, then you were an alternate. Kind of how did that whole situation come about?
Yeah, I was supposed to grapple for UFC Fight Pass Invitational. I think it was like 11 or something. Uh, I was I was going up to 55 just to stay busy grappling. I obviously that's like way out of my weight class,
Right.
but I was supposed to grapple against this kid Dorian Oliveras. He's like a black belt under John Danaher. They were having a hard time getting him opponents. So they knew I was local and knew that like I didn't that I ain't scared and I would grapple. So they asked me to grapple him. He ended up hurting his back. Then they found another replacement. That then for the show, this kid Josh Cisneros was like hella overweight and was missing. So they called me at 8:15 in the morning. The weigh-ins were at 10. And they called me at 8:15, like, hey, can you get down here by 10 a.m. to weigh in? I'm like, how much money do I get if I win? And they're like 30K. So I was like, yeah, I'll be there. So
Yeah.
I came down there, weighed in and entered the show. But
No,
yeah.
that's how it happened. Like kind of on the spot. You just had to. I mean, if you don't mind, you don't have to say if you don't want to. But did you have to cut a lot of weight? Were you really far off? Kind of. What was that like?
Well, the sad part was is I was trying to be as heavy as I could for the other match that was that week. So like the night before the weigh-in, me and my fiance went to this burger spot called With Love Always out here, and I had three burgers, ice cream cone, and then after the ice cream cone, we went to Handles, and I got this shake called a Monster, and the Monster is like, I think it's like 60 ounces or something, bro. It's huge. So I got that like a peanut butter, like a Reese's peanut butter shake from there that was like 60 ounces. So when I checked my weight that morning, and I was like, I still had to cut a little bit of weight. This
Yeah, yeah,
probably the same amount of weight that the other guy didn't want to cut, if that makes sense. But
yeah.
I don't want to say the number because I was so fat that it's almost embarrassing. Like
No,
I had love handles, bro. I was looking in the mirror. I was like, man, I'm gonna look like this on this reality show. I'm gonna look like a fat boy. But I usually walk around like between 45 and 50. Like I'll fluctuate between like after a good workout, I'll be like 44. Before it, I'm usually like 50, somewhere in there. So like I'm always in striking distance to make 35, or I can make 25 if they gave me like, said, hey, bro, 10 weeks out. Like for the UFC, I could make 25 because obviously if you're in the UFC, you have access to nutrition, stuff like that. But for local shows, there's really not a point in dying cutting weight for, $1,400 or $2,000. For the UFC, obviously, you got a chance to make 12 and 12. At 20, I'll cut my leg off for 24 bands, you know what I mean? But
absolutely. That's a lot different. You think you can go down to 25? Like you said, if you
y-
had the right time and the right nutrition
yeah,
plan, everything.
yeah, yeah, for sure I could.
Damn, I think you would be a problem at 25, bro. That would be if you could keep that strength anywhere near where it's at now, I think definitely be a problem at 25.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What team are you on? Are you allowed to say or do you have to wait till the show
Yeah.
comes out?
Yeah, it already aired the episode that
Okay.
I'm on. I was on
Okay.
Gabriel's team, the Brazilians.
Right, right. And how was it being around him? Did you get to chat with him at all or anything? I know he was like a gold medalist, something like that, right? At one of the games.
Yeah, he was a cool dude. Wrote obviously he's in the BJJ world, he's the real deal. Uh their English was his English was like not so hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to holler on him or nothing, but his English wasn't so good. Like he just kept saying, "Oh, it's time for a show. It's time for a show." Like he had a flashcard. He had a flashcard with like five phrases that he knew in English. Like, "Oh, let's go, brother. Time for a show." He just kept saying that over and over. But
That's
but
sick.
but his jiu-jitsu is nasty. So like if you can grapple, we pretty much like I don't need to know what language you speak. Like we could roll around and figure stuff out off of just like feel. So I didn't really, but the thing is I was only there for like 2 days when the other guys were there for 3 weeks. So or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and they had more interactions with each other. For me, it was like they just threw me out of an airplane and I just pulled the parachute. You know what I mean? I showed up at 10 a.m., weighed in, then they took my phone and put me in a hotel, and then that was really it. We hung out at the house, or sorry, we hung out at the house. So, oh shoot,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. No,
So
you're
yeah,
good.
we hung out at the house.
Yeah. The secret location, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So did you enjoy the experience overall? Did you feel like it wasn't, a waste of time necessarily? Did you get anything out of it?
Yeah. It helped me for sure because like obviously I don't do sport jiu-jitsu at all. I do MMA and I grapple, but it's not like sport jits. Like I always everything I do is always MMA related. So like if I'm grappling, there's punching with it for the most part. I'll grapple with Jake Shields sometimes in the mornings, depending on if he's in town or not. That's my grappling coach, but it's always MMA related. So
Yeah.
like I'm not much into like the different styles of passing. Like if I'm in your guard, I'm gonna stay in your guard and punch you. If does that make sense? Like I punch and then you open your guard. Like if you wanna hold me in the guard, I'm gonna stay there, get head position, punch right above my head, hit you, and then once I hit you, you decide to open the guard because you realize like if you stay here, I'm just gonna keep hitting you. Does that make sense? So like so my grappling is solid, like it's pretty good. But my sport grappling is I don't really mess with it that often.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I respect jujitsu, like I said, as a sport, but I'm sure as you came across, whenever you train with someone who's strictly BJJ, when you can punch, when you can kick, it sure makes it a lot different. A lot of
Yeah.
times if you're on the feet, they don't even make it to the ground because you start kicking their legs, you start punching them, they don't really know what to do, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've definitely experienced that too. So kind of, I was, looking at a few things on you. So you had wrestled at Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, yes,
Did you go
sir.
all 4 years out there?
Uh I went to Lake Erie out of high school.
Okay.
I was real young for my graduating class. I was like 17. So when I got to college, I was 17. I was really mature and kind of crazy. But I got a full ride to Lake Erie, and then I went to Lake Erie for like 3 semesters, ended up getting kicked out. Was just not ready to handle all the stuff that comes with being a student athlete. Like I got there, I didn't even know how to log in on the email. You know what I mean? The like
Yeah,
all the kids that went to like private schools, they were already done with their work. You know what I mean? I'm freaking this dog is out of his mind.
you're
Uh
good, brother. No worries.
so I'm like I didn't even know how to log in on the email. These dudes are already done with the whole assignment. And I'm like still trying to log in, you know. But I did all right. I went to Lake Erie, got a full ride, ended up getting kicked out. Uh, I was actually at a tournament wrestling unattached, meaning like I wasn't representing the school. I ended up losing to this JUCO national champ. I was super mad. I was beating him I was beating him up and he ended up pinning me. So I go in the locker room and I'm tearing the place up, going crazy. I'm in there headbutting the lockers, punching the lockers. And this coach, Sonny Marchetti, who is the coach at Notre Dame, he comes into the locker room. He sees I'm spazzing out. I think he had been through similar situations. So he comes in there and he's like, "Hey, bro, you're a gangster. You belong with us." He's like, "What? he's like, what are you doing? He's like, send me your, he's like, you belong with us. I end up sending my transcripts to him. And then the following Monday, I transferred into Notre Dame and they had like a powerhouse. Lake Erie was a good school. They had a good coach and like it was a good program, but Notre Dame was like cream of the crop. Like they had the number one recruiting class in the country 5 years in a row in every division but Division One. So I ended up getting on a team with like all killers, and I went from being like I didn't really learn too much more wrestling at Notre Dame, but I just figured out that I could beat good guys. And then I went from being just average or above average to being like all American, like NCAA champion level.
That is quite an experience. So before that, did you wrestle your whole life?
Yeah, I wrestled since I was four, but
Okay.
me and
So
my
that took
dad,
you to the next level?
yeah, that took me to the net to a higher level, I suppose. Like I would enter like universities, like these freestyle tournaments and college tournaments, but I was just like living at home in Barberton, Ohio, and like running on the treadmill, like not living the right lifestyle by any means. Just kind of like still living a double life, like hanging out with my buddies that like now they're in like rehabs and jails, you know what I'm saying? So I would hang out with those guys and then try to fake like I was a wrestler at the same time. And it wasn't conducive. Like there's no way you can do that in my opinion. Like just be a street urchin on Monday and then on Wednesday go wrestle with the guys from Penn State. You know what I mean? It's just not likely that you could. I was crazy enough.
Yeah.
I thought I could do it. I really did. I truly believed that I could do that. But that shows how delusional I was. But yeah, uh I stayed at Barberton. That was where I wrestled all my life. My dad, we had this idea that like if we stay loyal to our club, we're homegrown. If somebody else tried to ask me to come train with them, we would almost be like disrespected. Like, no, we stay here. We don't travel. We stay here in my room at Barberton and we train with the coaches here. And that's it. We don't go train with other clubs. Until I got to a certain age, and then I realized I had to branch out and train with people from different cities and stuff to get better.
That makes sense. If anything, so would you say maybe Notre Dame kind of helped you see what you needed to do as far as structure wise and consistency and kind of go all in just in the sense of training and everything like that?
Yeah, I definitely it just changed like the partners that I had were better than the guys I was competing against.
Right.
So I went from like when I was at Barberton, I had good partners. That's like my high school club. I would train with like kids that their aspirations were just to be on a wrestling team. They didn't think like, oh, I'm going to be a USA wrestler, like make it to the Olympics or something. So when I got to Notre Dame, I had partners that were like four-time state champs in high school. Every single kid was a four-timer or a three-timer from a different state. So I went from wrestling with just like a kid from my town whose mom is a barmaid and like a bartender. The kid smells like cigarettes to training with a guy that's like his aspirations were to be an Olympian. You know what I mean? So it changed my standard. But I still when I was at Notre Dame, I still wasn't really living the life. Like I would still go home and hang out and act like I was one of the local guys and then go back and wrestle. But I always worked real hard. Like I thought I could party, break the rules and not live the right lifestyle and still be the best, which I think you could do it. You know what I mean? Looking back on it, you probably could. I probably
Yeah.
could have pulled it off, but there was a lot better way to go about it. I have a lot of regrets about uh, just how I conducted myself and just, yeah, definitely. It's kind of like, it's like bittersweet because like obviously wrestling was a big part of my identity But when people say that I was good, it's just like I'm like, I left so much money on the table. There's so many more. I could have uh done a lot better if I focused more and had my head on straight.
It happens. It definitely happens to a lot of people. Were you always thinking about transitioning to fighting? When did that come into play?
Yeah, I took my first three fights without any like MMA coaching or training, but I already had the look. So like when I was in the process of getting kicked out of from transferring to Lake Erie to Notre Dame in that time period, that's when I took my first fights. So I got to Notre Dame, wasn't wasn't the starter. We had like an eight-man wrestle off. Like on the team, it was like AJ McKee. This was all 141, my weight
Oh
class.
shit.
AJ McKee, Mo Miller, Andrew Bannister, who I believe was like a four-timer in Maryland, Michael Olson, who was a four-timer in Kansas. So like when I transferred into Notre Dame, they had this board and it had me on at seventh out of eight guys. So when I transferred in, I wasn't like they just brought me in like knowing that I had talent and just hoped that the program would bring me up to its level. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
so I wasn't coming in like highly regarded or they didn't think like, oh, this dude's going to be a national champ. They're just like, he will make our room tougher, so we'll let him in. So I fought my red shirt sophomore year of college. I was like 26 and 4 or 5. I got second at the Eastern Michigan Open, second at the Michigan State Open. Now these are like Big Ten tournaments. So they're that's Patchy calling me. Uh
That's
great.
what's up.
So I end up not starting for Notre Dame and I was ineligible. And then going into that summer, I probably shouldn't even tell this story. I probably shouldn't even say this, but I was getting I was getting high. I was being a complete loser. Like I was getting high in multiple ways, really. And
Yeah.
I drove up to this gym in Findlay, Ohio, which was like 3 hours away, which is ridiculous that I even went up there. But I drove 3 hours away. Damn, he's calling again.
You good?
He must want to grapple or something. But
Yeah, he needs you.
I drove all the way out to Findlay and ended up sparring this pro boxer who had like 40 boxing matches as a pro, but it was MMA sparring and I was like knee tapping him, fireman's carrying him, body locking him, picking him up, slamming him. So they were like this dude named Rick Fitch is like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna call you Chaos. Your nickname is Chaos." This before Colby Covington was even Colby Chaos. So he's like, "I'm gonna call you Chaos, bro." He's like, "Damn." He's like, "This dude is a killer at boxing. He beats all of us up." He's like, "You want to fight this Saturday?" And I was like, "Fuck, bro." I know at that point I felt like if there was no way to get in trouble, I wouldn't turn a fight down. Like if I thought maybe I could get arrested or get in some type of trouble, I would always take the high road. Like I'm cool, I don't want to fight. But if we could fight and there's no one around, I would do it. You know what I'm saying? So I never really turned down a fight in that type of situation before. So I said, okay, so I ended up fighting and I choked the dude out and like probably like it was like 30 seconds or something. And then I realized that that was just as fun as partying and breaking the rules and not listening. So, and it kind of felt similar, like felt like I got away with something, like fighting. It felt like, oh, I did something bad, but no one's gonna get me in trouble, and I got out of there without them getting me. So it felt like, okay, that was tight. So then I fought the same summer. I fought this dude who was 5-2, uh, who isn't really like that great. He wasn't that good, but I had no training. So I was still doing fireman's carries in my fights because I had never been to a gym. Didn't know a guillotine, didn't know a calf kick,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know I didn't know anything about MMA except for like when they'd look at my ears and how I looked, they're like, "Oh, they're like, "You Frankie Edgar?" You know, like
Yeah.
I'd be at the grocery store and like they're like, "You look like Frankie Edgar." And I'm like, "Who the fuck is Frankie Edgar?" You know, I didn't even know what UFC was really. So I ended up fighting 3 times without training and was 2-1. And then after that, I started going to but I wasn't allowed to fight because my college coach was like, "Hey, bro, you're gonna get hurt. You shouldn't be fighting. That's stupid." So I wasn't really even supposed to be fighting. I was like sneaking and doing it behind my coach's back. So then after I fought, then I started taking wrestling super serious, and it made wrestling feel like a game. Because until that point, wrestling was a fight to me. Like I thought of it as a fight. And then I realized wrestling's not a fight at all, and it's not as tough as everyone thinks it is because you're not in a steel cage where the dude's allowed to smash you. So then I went back to wrestling, and then I moved to Cleveland and stayed at Notre Dame all summer and just like bought in. But don't get me wrong, I was still doing a lot of bad stuff. I just was living on the campus
Right.
and training full time, but I would still obviously not do all the right stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I had noticed maybe it was due to the you hadn't really trained yet. You were kind of getting caught with a couple guillotines early in your career. Was that due to like the fireman, or was that due to leaving your neck on the outside? Obviously, you adjusted since then, but what was
Yeah.
kind of the struggles during that time?
Well, I never did jujitsu. So like
Yeah, so you just didn't realize it.
I didn't even know it was a move.
Right.
So like I'm getting caught with the guillotine and I'm like, that's bullshit. I'm like that
Yeah.
I was in Cleveland, I don't want to knock nobody, but the jiu-jitsu there was like no one made it seem like cool, like something that I would want to do. Right?
Right.
Like I pull up and the dude's like got his head up his own ass, like laying on his back like this and his
Yeah.
with his feet up. I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, I don't want to do that. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
then when I moved to Vegas, I still fought it and was still like, man, jiu-jitsu looks lame to me. It doesn't seem like I hadn't saw anyone that was using jiu-jitsu and MMA to a way that made me think like this is something I want to be like I want to do or copy. Like at the time I was just like watching like Kevin Randleman highlight tapes and like
Yeah, wild.
yeah, just like I just want to try to slam or I didn't know that like there was submission hunters out there who were doing it and making it cool to do. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was getting caught in guillotines because I was too loyal to wrestling
Yeah. Leaving
and
the head on the outside.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I can because I know how to like hide my neck.
Right,
Like,
right.
but then like I was below white belt in jiu-jitsu. Like
Right.
I didn't know a Kimura, didn't know a triangle, rear naked. I never even heard of it.
And I saw those and I wasn't sure if it was just due to, the taking the wrong approach, or like you said, you just didn't even know that was possible. So I was just curious on, obviously that
Yeah.
doesn't happen today, but I was curious to kind of how those happen and the
Y-
adjustments on it.
Yeah, I was a dummy. Just in but I was willing to fight. I just didn't understand that jiu-jitsu is important and like that there's multiple sports in MMA. I just thought it was like you're either tough or you're not. Like you heard of a tough man competition,
Yeah.
like those old school bar fights and stuff.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
I heard those stories in the bar, like in my dad's bar and stuff. So like that's what I heard those stories and I'm like, oh, I'm like that too. So I just thought I thought that's how I was too. So I'll fight. But I
No, that
definitely,
makes sense.
and then I moved out here and I went from training with people that weren't really good at jiu-jitsu to training with like Patchy Mix, uh, Joseph Benavidez, Dan Ige, guys that were black belts. So it, I moved out here and then I learned like jiu-jitsu is important and I do jiu-jitsu for MMA now. You know what I mean? I'm not looking to like pull guard or put you on top of me. I'm looking to wrestle, get on top, do jiu-jitsu from top, like the right approach for MMA.
No, definitely.
But I learned a lot from those guillotines. It definitely humbled me up because my the first time I got choked, they ended up like taking a bus in my hometown with like 100 people on it. They're like drinking on this. They took a school bus from my hometown to the fight, and
Yeah.
I was beating on the dude and get caught in a guillotine and like the people that went to watch me thought that it was like he didn't tap. They thought the ref and the promoter like did me dirty. They're like, he didn't tap. That was
Yeah.
bullshit. That was bullshit. Patchy calling me again. But yeah, uh,